Dumb movies are nothing new, but good dumb movies are hard to come by. So in this video we're going to reminisce with possibly the greatest dumb movie ever made. It's the 1994 comedy classic Dumb and Dumber. Let's take a look back. You know what's a no-brainer? The fact that the script for Dumb and Dumber floated around for so long and no one was interested in it. Peter and Bob Farrelly's comedy script was turned down time and time again, with many studio executives calling the film terrible and vowing it would never get made by anyone. In a world where Theodore Rex, Bruce Lee fights back from the grave and the telephone got made, someone's going to make Dumb and Dumber. When it seemed all hope was lost in 1993, producer Charles B. Wessler had a meeting with a guy called Brad Cravoy, who at the time was attempting to help finance low-budget movies. Brad loved the script, so he and Wessler joined up with fellow producer Steven Stabler and decided they were going to attempt to make the film. New Line Cinema came into the picture, becoming the first studio to even entertain making the film, on the condition that the script was right, and they recommended Jim Carrey. Yeah! Shortly after Jim was approached for Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura exploded onto the big screen, making $70 million in the US and $170 million worldwide on a $12 million budget, meaning Jim's agents could now ask for just a little bit more. That's right, for Dumb and Dumber, Jim Carrey was paid $7 million. More than half the film's budget. Well played, mate.
Man, where did you come up with a scam like that?
Jim Carrey was cast as one of the two leads, Lloyd Christmas. For his partner in crime, Harry, Jim Carrey recommended Jeff Daniels, but New Line was hesitant because Daniels was a serious actor, and they wanted another comedian to take the role. Can you imagine if it was Jim Carrey and Robin Williams, or Jim Carrey and Mike Myers? I reckon the screen would explode, just be constant gags. They'd be fighting each other in a gag war. Gag warfare. Watching that movie, you feel like the guy from Clockwork Orange, just constant madness projected at you. I'm so glad they got Jeff Daniels. He really is a key ingredient in this movie to make it work. Jim Carrey and the Farrellys pushed for Daniels to do the movie, but New Line were extremely skeptical. Daniels was only paid around 50 grand for the film, with New Line offering the low sum in an attempt to discourage him from taking the role. However, Daniels accepted the role, and it turns out accepting this dumb script was a very clever choice.
This will ruin your career. This is the end of everything. We cannot recommend more strongly that you do not do this movie.
No, Jeff, that would happen later when you did this.
Get out of here.
The Farrelly brothers were asked to direct because of how well they knew the scripts and characters. The Farrelly spontaneity and freshness as first-time directors helps the film greatly, giving it a freedom and innocence that resonates on screen. When the film went to the top of the US box office, it gave Jim Carrey the distinction of being the first actor to have 3 films go straight to #1 in 1 year, those being The Mask, Ace Ventura, and of course Dumb and Dumber. Believe it or not, the same year Jim Carrey was nominated for a Razzie for Worst New Star. That's like nominating Anthony Joshua for Worst New Boxer. The film was released on December 6, 1994. It grossed $247 million at the box office and has developed a massive cult following in the years since its release. Dumb and Dumber received a mixed critical response. While Roger Ebert only gave the film 2 out of 4 stars, he did praise the performances of Carrey and Daniels, and Ebert's At the Movie's partner Gene Siskel gave the film a thumbs up and praised it.
I like it a lot.
Dumb and Dumber tells the story of 2 dumb but good-hearted friends, Harry and Lloyd. One day Lloyd drives a woman to the airport who he instantly falls in love with, Mary Swanson, played by Lauren Holly. She leaves a briefcase at the airport for kidnappers who have her husband under ransom, but Lloyd sees her leave it and believes it to be a mistake, so he runs into the airport and takes it before the kidnappers can. When both guys are fired, Lloyd encourages Harry to accompany him on a road trip across the country, following Mary to Aspen so they can give her back the case and Lloyd can be reunited with his crush. Thus, hilarity ensues as these 2 hapless half-wits hit the road and get into dumb and even dumber situations along the way. Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels expertly play Harry and Lloyd, making them very likeable when they could have easily been very annoying and grating. They play them so earnestly, and the chemistry between them is believable and pulls at your heartstrings. You really do get behind their friendship. Back here, Jim Carrey really was in a league of his own, and Jeff Daniels managed to keep up with him, not by trying to outdo him, instead working with him so they could play off each other and bounce ideas back and forth. The combination works brilliantly, and the Farrellys said as soon as they got Jim and Jeff in the Harry and Lloyd get-up and had them sit down and bounce back and forth, they knew they had found their winning pair. The original choices for Harry and Lloyd before Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels got involved were Nicolas Cage and Gary Oldman. Yeah, the movie would probably have been a hell of a lot different if it had been those two guys.
Oh, you that fucking low man!
Why him, you monster?
Dumb and Dumber is full of priceless dumb comedy, and it is worth remembering that a lot of this stuff was a first. It's not a coincidence to me that after Dumb and Dumber we had the arrival of many movies focused on dumb, immature adults and silly humour. And of course Jackass arrived not long after also. It might be easy to look at Dumb and Dumber as just another dumb comedy, but it really wasn't. It was the one that popularised the more immature childish humour that dominated the mid-90s and early 2000s. This movie perfectly translated to the 12 and 13 year olds who loved toilet humour, but also the grown men and women who still found that stuff hilarious and were not ready to grow up just yet.
Do you think?
You want to talk about toilet humour? This is toilet humour. This is the original toilet humour. Humour on a toilet. Toilet humour. Yes, Jeff Daniels pooping his heart out still makes us laugh our heads off to this very day. And Back Here was one of the first times we had seen this sort of thing on screen, and it connected with people. Dumb and Dumber gave a comedy voice for the immature, fart joke loving community, who may also have been entertained simultaneously by the UK comedy show Bottom and other toilet humour focused series that arrived around the same time. Dumb and Dumber was a real flag bearer for those who found fart jokes funny. These kind of fans were about to inherit pop culture with Beavis and Butthead, Jackass, South Park and the Farrelly brothers arriving on the scene to make immaturity relevant on a worldwide scale. For me, the funniest scene in the film is Lloyd's dream sequence, when he imagines what it will be like to meet Mary again. This scene is a perfect example of Jim Carrey's untouchable comedic energy at the time. He completely owns this scene, and the more absurd it gets, the better it is. The stars aligned and first-time directors teamed with Carrey and Daniels managed to produce some of the most organic and genuine dumb humour in any movie. The beauty of the film is how simple the idea for the gag can be, but how well executed and perfectly timed it comes across. Carrey and Daniels were encouraged to improvise on set, and their performances are so natural and well done that you never watch the movie thinking these guys are trying to play dumb. They completely embody the characters. You don't see Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels on screen, you see Harry and Lloyd. A perfect example of the improvisation is this classic scene from Jim.
No way! That's great!
Lloyd noticing the poster as he walks out of the room was not in the script, and is a wonderful example of Carrey's fantastic improv skills. The ironic thing about Dumb and Dumber is how much thought and talent went into a lot of the scenes and delivery, and through completely immersing themselves in these idiot characters, Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels managed to produce comedy that was dumb and smart at the same time. Harry and Lloyd's friendship is so believable and sweet. No matter what happens, these two will always be friends, and as long as they have each other, it seems they can face anything. I love the idea of these two getting into trouble without knowing it, with the two criminals following them. It gives the characters a sense of childlike mischief and innocence. Harry and Lloyd have no idea all the trouble they are causing, and to see these professional criminals talk about them as if they have a clue what they are doing makes Harry and Lloyd even more endearing, and the situation even more fun to watch.
These guys aren't just anybody. They're good.
Move over, James Bond, get out the way, Ethan Hunt. Jason Bourne, please, make way for Harry and Lloyd, the new generation of spies. Nobody does it better.
They're good.
While Harry and Lloyd are indeed dumb as a post, they still feel like human beings, and there are brief moments of humanity that bring the film back down to earth and cause you to become even more invested in these two underdogs. When Harry and Lloyd fall out on the way to Aspen, it's another example of a moment where you genuinely feel for these characters and the friendship. Obviously the fallout comes from a very stupid thing Lloyd does by driving the wrong way for miles using all their gas money, but how does he redeem himself? He does something even more stupid, where he trades in their van for a small bike that would take them the rest of the way to Aspen. Ironically, it's their dumbness that breaks them apart, but also their dumbness that brings them back together.
Where did you find that?
Some kid back in town traded the van for it straight up. I can get 70 miles to the gallon on this hog.
You know, Lloyd, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this. And totally redeem yourself!
You know, Jim, just when I thought you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like that. And totally redeem yourself! When Harry forgives Lloyd because he is as dumb as him, it's kind of a beautiful moment. This to me is smart writing about dumb people and brings a charming and sentimental side to their stupidity. Lauren Holly, who was offered Courtney Cox's role in Ace Ventura but turned it down, ended up working with her future husband Jim Carrey on this movie. Yes, in the end, Mary did actually end up marrying Lloyd in real life.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yep, Lauren Holly and Jim Carrey were married after this movie. It didn't last a long time, but hopefully it wasn't an entirely unhappy marriage.
Oh yeah, the bitch!
Lauren Holly puts in a very likeable performance as Mary. Alongside Harry and Lloyd, she's very unjudgmental, trying to be a kind person even when Harry and Lloyd are as dumb as they are. Mary's character has a few problems, however. I mean, why does she go on dates with Harry when her husband is kidnapped? I guess you could just say she was just trying to keep her mind off it, but she doesn't even tell Harry she's taken. You got a husband, Mary, and you're going out for dates with Harry while your husband's getting buggered. What are you thinking, love? Other than that, Mary's fine. She could have easily been more stuck up to Harry and Lloyd, but she's good to Harry and sympathetic to Lloyd even when he's in the midst of his annoying antics. I also enjoyed Mike Starr's performance as one of the villains who is pursuing them. He's a great over-the-top bad guy. Charlie Rocket is the chief bad guy and he's also pretty good. And Victoria Powell is fun as a character who turns out to be more than she seems. But in the end, it really is Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels' movie. I really need to mention the soundtrack because it captures the feeling of escapism and has a real upbeat vibe, with tracks such as The Primitives' Crash becoming synonymous with this film.
Some people just weren't cut out for life on the road.
Another track I really like is Get Ready, which was actually originally a Motown song by Smokey Robinson, covered here by the Proclaimers. The song plays at the start of Harry and Lloyd's journey and helps to bring forth that positive, optimistic vibe. Now, it's fairly common knowledge that the famous Jim Carrey movies The Mask and Ace Ventura were brought over to the world of animation, but one thing you may not know is there was in fact a Dumb and Dumber cartoon series. Yep, in 1995, Dumb and Dumber the animated series arrived on ABC and Cartoon Network in the UK. I quite like the cartoon, if I'm honest. It kind of takes what Dumb and Dumber was and elevates it to an even more crazy cartoonish level, which is to be expected as it is indeed a cartoon. Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels do not voice our heroes, with Harry and Lloyd this time voiced by Matt Further and Bill Fagerbeck. Honestly, I think they did pretty good voicing Harry and Lloyd. They managed to capture the spirit of the characters and are very convincing. The series only ran for one season, but in my view it's a fun, anarchic cartoon in the vein of something like Ren and Stimpy. And if you're ever stuck for something to watch, it might be worth some of your time. What wouldn't be worth your time, or anybody's, is the 2003 prequel When Harry Met Lloyd. Yes, this movie exists.
Oh, that pisses me off. That pisses me right off.
When Harry Met Lloyd was doomed from the get-go. New actors, new writers, and a new style that took away all the heart and charm of the first film. The jokes in this film are just thrown at the wall. There is no timing and no context, and that's not even the worst thing.
It's worse, Lloyd.
Some people have said Derek Richardson and Eric Christian Olsen capture Harry and Lloyd well, but I just don't agree. They're not likeable or endearing and don't have half the charisma of Jim Carrey or Jeff Daniels. They are in fact, dare I say it, quite boring in the roles. These guys have no comedic timing, and this movie is the ultimate example of dumb humour done badly. When Harry Met Lloyd is a terrible film, and it showed crystal clear that a Dumb and Dumber movie could not work without Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. Talk of an actual Dumb and Dumber sequel started in around 2009, but it took Jim Carrey sitting down in a hotel room one night watching the first film for him to decide the sequel had to happen. Carrey said he wanted to see these guys again, and to be honest, who didn't? Dumb and Dumber 2 was very anticipated, and the Farrelly brothers came back to direct. It finally hit our screens in 2014. I think the movie is okay. I feel like people were a bit too hard on it, even though it is a flawed movie. The biggest problem for me was they were trying to cram as many jokes in as possible and just make Harry and Lloyd as dumb as possible. Harry and Lloyd were dumber than they were in the first film, and like when Harry Met Lloyd, at times I felt like they were just throwing stuff at the wall for the sake of being dumb. It works in some moments as a nostalgic trip, and there are a few funny scenes, but it's nowhere near as good as the first film. Dumb and Dumber 2 is entertaining enough, I suppose. The plot is pretty fun, Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels still have chemistry, and the friendship of Harry and Lloyd is still the central piece of the story. It's an okay sequel, and probably the best it could have been after such a long gap from the first. The first Dumb and Dumber to this day still resonates with me and cheers me up whenever I'm down. It's one of the best comedies of the 90s and never seems to age. It's the perfect mix of dumb humour but genuine heart and friendship. It's crazy that this little dumb movie became Jeff Daniels' most successful, helped launch Jim Carrey to megastardom, and gave the Farrelly brothers a career. All hail Dumb and Dumber. Maybe you're not so dumb after all. Thanks for watching everyone. If you enjoyed reminiscing back to Dumb and Dumber, please watch another video where I reminisce back to another retro nostalgic movie. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and we can discuss our movie obsession. Let me know what you think of Dumb and Dumber in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.